Now, a big question I'm getting about OSHA is this exclusion pay requirement. And it's something employers need to take a look at and remember that this still is in play. The exclusion pay requirement has not changed with this updated revision to the ETS that I mentioned in December. It's been in place in 2021 and continues to be in place. And basically, it requires employers to pay employees who are excluded from the workplace due to a workplace exposure, COVID-19 exposure. So it only applies to exposures that are at the workplace. So either the employee was exposed to COVID-19 and has to quarantine because of the exposure, or they caught COVID at the workplace. Now, the burden is on the employer in regards to this. So if an employee has come into work, caught COVID, the presumption is they caught it at work. Now, the employer could make a showing that, but the burden's on the employer, that the employee caught COVID somewhere else. And for example, if the employer could show that other family members of the employee have COVID, nobody else at work has COVID, you could make the argument that the employee caught it at home, not at work. And therefore, they're being excluded from work. They still have to be excluded, but the employer doesn't have to pay the exclusion pay. Other scenarios we see coming up where the employee tells the employer they went to a party over the holidays and a lot of other people at the party had COVID and they likely caught COVID at that party. And again, if nobody else at work has COVID, it's the employer could most likely overcome that presumption and say this was not a workplace exposure. But be careful about that. And employers need to be asking the employees about these types of scenarios where they think they caught it. And it also helps to document the exposure at work, who has COVID at the workplace and who has been working with those employees who tested positive for COVID. So you could make these arguments in regards to the exclusion pay. Now, under exclusion pay, employers can require the employee to use paid leave provided to the employee by the employer, but you can't require the employee to use the California paid sick leave provided to the employee under Labor Code Section 246. That's the California 3 days of paid sick leave under California law. You can't require the employees to use that as part of this exclusion pay, but you can require the employee to use any other paid leave provided to the employee under any other employment policies. Now, the rate of pay for exclusion pay, we don't have a lot of guidance from OSHA on this, and they're not the labor commissioner, so that they're getting into some area that they weren't too certain about. But they've set out in this FAQ that the rate of pay for exclusion pay is the employee's regular rate of pay for the pay period in which the employee is excluded. So be careful how you do that calculation. If you have any questions, reach out to us on that. Also, I recommend recording the exclusion pay on a separate line item of the employee's pay stub, just to document that you're paying this and you have a clear record. If there's ever a dispute by the employee or OSHA comes in to do an audit, you've got records clearly indicating that you've paid this for the employees. And as a heads up, it's not related to this exclusion pay, but there is talk within California with the governor and legislature that there is another paid sick leave that will take place here in 2022. So just as a heads up, keep your eyes open for that new requirement. Just like we had that supplemental paid sick leave that expired in 2021, September of 2021 for California employers, it's likely we're going to have another paid sick leave requirement come up here in 2022. So keep your eyes open. But right now, this is the only paid sick leave. When I say paid sick leave, the COVID sick leave pay that's required by California employers, apart from the California paid sick leave requirement under Labor Code Section 246.